Now let's go to another developing story. A small object believed to be a drone found on the White House grounds earlier today. The Secret Service is investigating, and White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest says they don't believe there's any ongoing threat. Still, it's worth talking about, and to go further in depth, we're pleased to be joined by Ali Safavi. Ali is a member of Iran's parliament in exile. He's also a member of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and conservative strategist Jack Burkman. Jack also serves as the host of Behind the Curtain. Both of those gentlemen join us from Newsmax, Washington. So, Jack, the president's out of town, but we've heard all the terror chatter and the drone on the White House grounds. What are people talking about this morning in Washington?
Well, JD, it's hard to know. I don't know that there's a whole lot of new information about it. You know, I wonder if this administration, I frankly think they're looking for any reason to kind of raise the threat level. The president needs to change the agenda in Washington, and I think if he can raise the threat level, if he can play into some of these fears, I think what you're seeing is Obama's using anything right now to change the agenda. I think that's the reason for his trip to India, which was not scheduled for a long time. You may know that. I think right now he's looking for any excuse to change the agenda. I think you're going to hear more and more talk about terror.
And speaking of terror, not only is the president in India, but he's now going to go on to Saudi Arabia in the wake of the death of King Abdullah. Ali, let me talk to you. So much is going on. Channel 2 in Israel reports that Iran now has an ICBM that it believes has the range to reach the United States. With all the talk of terror and all the Iranian ambitions, it certainly seems to set up a very ominous picture for the days ahead.
Well, good morning, JD, and thank you for having me. I think that while, of course, one has to wait and see whether the report of Iran having an ICBM is truly correct or not, I think that as we speak, the Iranian regime does have missiles, Shahab-3 and Qadar, with the range of about 1,800 miles that can easily reach the southern shores of Europe. So clearly, with or without a ballistic missile, the Iranian regime remains, from my view, the number one strategic threat, not only to regional countries, but also to the national security of the United States. And I think when you talk about the agenda of the president, I think the focus has to be on the growing threat and menace coming from Tehran.
Well, we hear you set that
JD,
up, and Ali, go ahead very quickly, Jack, about 20 seconds.
Yeah, I just say, hopefully if we can get a Republican president in 2016, not only do I think negotiations with Iran have to end, but I think one of the top priorities of a new president has got to be to strike. I think that I'll call for military action. Let's make some news today. It's time to destroy these capacities of Iran. If we wait, it's going to be too late. It might be too late already.
Well, what a way to start a Monday. Snowfall, a possible blizzard in the Northeast, and some buzz about 2016, and also a call for military action. Jack and Ali, we ask you both to stay with us. You stay with us too. There's more ahead here on America's Forum. Continue the conversation with Ali Safavi, a member of Iran's parliament in exile. Also, Jack Burkman, who is we'll call him a Washington insider. He's been around there quite a bit, and he's also the host of Behind the Curtain. Jack, before we go behind the curtain to what happened in Iowa, let me get back to Ali, because so much is going on with Iran financing, supporting terror groups. Ali, over the weekend, in fact, yesterday, a couple of jetliners in the United States diverted, we believe, because of terror threats. Do you believe Iran could possibly be playing an active role in those recent developments here in the United States?
Well, I haven't seen any information that will point to that, but I think you have to look at this situation in perspective. I think for the past 35 years, and particularly in recent years, as the Iranian regime has become more isolated at home with the economic problems and everything else that is going on, the problems with the Syrian regime, the problems in Syria, the problems in Yemen, in elsewhere in the region, I think the Iranian regime has continued to sponsor terror. It has continued to sponsor and finance terrorist groups. You know that they have spent billions of dollars helping Bashar Assad. In fact, something to the tune of $2 billion a month. They're helping to keep up Assad in power. They have been training and financing Shiite militias in Iraq. And of course, now you have the situation in Yemen when Iranian-trained, financed, and armed rebels have taken over that country. So I think that the threat of Iran as a terror-sponsoring regime is very, very real. And I think the danger is that if we would think that if we are nice to them, they will be nice to us. The Iranian regime and its leaders are bad actors in the region. And I think that with that perspective, I think this calls for a decisive and firm policy on the part of the U.S. administration.
And on that note, Ali, let me thank you, because we heard Jack Burkman talk about decisive action. Jack was saying if it were up to him, he'd consider military action right now. Now, Jack, that does get some people's attention. But over the weekend, what was getting attention was the parade of would-be presidential candidates at the Iowa Freedom Summit. Very quickly, give me your take on who you believe stood head and shoulders above the rest in that group, if it's possible to make that early call.
Wow, I don't think it is, JD. The field is broadening. Not since the origins of the party in 1860 have we had so many candidates. We've never had this many credible candidates. Now there's even talk Chris Christie wants in. I was assuming he's out. Now maybe he's in. I mean, Sarah Palin, I don't think she could build a national organization. I mean, I think what's happening is you're going to have Bush and Romney compete for the establishment mantle or the moderate mantle or whatever you want to call it. And then you're going to have room for maybe 2 or 3 others on the far right. You're going to have maybe a Ted Cruz, maybe a Rand Paul, maybe a Rick Santorum, although Santorum did, from what I'm hearing in Iowa, he did very, very poorly out there. Speech was very flat. Not sure why. He's usually a great speaker. I'm hearing that people were just on their phones texting when he spoke. So I don't know. It's so wide open.
Well, it won't be a cakewalk
right now.
Won't be a cakewalk for anybody, but Scott Walker's name seems to have risen this weekend.
Scott
Apparently
Walker
gave a very good speech. We're going to be talking more about the Iowa Freedom Summit later this hour. Jack, we want you to hang in with us for the course of the hour. Ali, as always, you have our thanks. We'll have you back very soon.